Okay. Have you ever, done something and then thought, what was I thinking? Like, one time I tried to convince my roommate that our goldfish needed like a little tiny scuba suit, you
Hmm.
know? And it turns out there's a whole science behind these little quirks. It's called psychology. And it's way more than just, therapy and dream analysis. We're diving deep today into the fascinating world of psychology. So buckle up. Psychology, when you really think about it, is the science of us, all the weird and wonderful things that make us tick. It's not just about the human mind, it's about behavior in all organisms. Now, early thinkers like Aristotle, he had some interesting takes. He saw humans as like thinking animals, which, let's be honest, is pretty relatable some days, right? And then there's Descartes, who famously said, I think, therefore I am. Yeah, talk about a mind blowing concept. Makes you question everything you thought you knew. But here's where it gets really interesting. Those early ideas, they actually paved the way for different schools of thought in psychology, each with its own way of looking at behavior. It's like having a set of lenses, each revealing a different aspect of the human experience. First up, we've got structuralism. This was spearheaded by Wundt and Titchener. They were all about breaking down consciousness into its basic elements. Think of it like taking apart a car engine to understand how all the parts work together. Then there's functionalism, championed by William James. That's the same guy who gave us the thinking animals idea. Functionalism focuses on the purpose of behavior, why we do what we do. It's kind of like asking, what's the function of laughter? Or why do we get butterflies in our stomachs when we're nervous? It's all about understanding the why behind our actions. And you can't forget Gestalt psychology, which takes a more holistic approach. Their motto, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. They're all about how we perceive patterns, make sense of the world, and experience things as a whole. Think about those optical illusions that trick your brain. That's Gestalt psychology in action. Now let's shift gears to behaviorism, which took the psychology world by storm in the early 20th century, thanks to John B. Watson. He was all about focusing on observable behavior and how we learn through conditioning. Remember Pavlov's dogs, that classic experiment where the dogs learn to associate the sound of a bell with food? Yeah, that's behaviorism in a nutshell. And then there's psychoanalysis, pioneered by the one and only Sigmund Freud. He dove deep into the unconscious mind, exploring the hidden desires and conflicts that shape our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's like an iceberg. With the conscious mind being just the tip, while the vast unconscious lies beneath the surface. Freud's ideas are definitely complex and, let's be honest, a little controversial. But his emphasis on early childhood experiences influencing our adult personalities is definitely something to ponder. Think about your own childhood for a second. Did any of those early experiences, the good, the bad, the awkward, shape the way you relate to others today? It's a fascinating question to consider, right? So we've got these different lenses for looking at behavior. But what about the modern perspectives that shape psychology today? Well, first up, we have the biological perspective, which explores how our genes, brain chemistry, and hormones influence our behavior. It's like the nature side of the nature versus nurture debate. Think about how low levels of serotonin are linked to depression. That's a prime example of the biological perspective in action. It makes you think about all those pharmaceutical commercials, right? Ask your doctor if this medication is right for you. It's become part of our cultural understanding of mental health. Then there's the learning perspective, which focuses on how our experiences shape us, the nurture side of the equation. This includes everything from basic conditioning, like Pavlov's dogs, to complex social learning. We're all products of our environment, absorbing information, picking up habits, and learning from those around us. Speaking of learning, have you ever trained a pet? Whether you're using treats to reinforce good behavior or associating a command with a specific action, you're essentially using psychological principles. You're a bit of a psychologist yourself. Now, the nature versus nurture debate is a long-standing one, and both sides have valid points. But that's what makes psychology so interesting. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's a dynamic interplay between our biology and our experiences. So alongside the biological and learning perspectives, we have a few others that add to the rich tapestry of psychology. There's the psychodynamic perspective, which, while rooted in Freud's ideas, has expanded beyond his theories. It focuses on those internal conflicts, defense mechanisms, and how our early relationships shape our personalities. It's like a deep dive into the inner workings of our minds. Then there's the sociocultural perspective, which reminds us that we're not just individuals, we're part of a larger social fabric. This perspective emphasizes how our culture, norms, values, and social interactions shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It's like, have you ever noticed how you act differently in different social situations? Like you might be more reserved at work than you are with your close friends. That's the sociocultural perspective at play. And finally, we have the humanistic perspective, which takes a more positive and optimistic view of human nature. Think Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with self-actualization at the top, that innate drive to reach our full potential. The humanistic perspective emphasizes personal growth, self-discovery, and the importance of subjective experience. It's all about recognizing our own unique journeys and striving for our best selves. Okay, so we've covered the different schools of thought and the modern perspectives in psychology. But what about the actual processes that psychologists study? What's going on in that fascinating 3-pound organ we call the brain? One of the most fundamental processes is sensation and perception. It's not just about seeing, hearing, or feeling. It's about how our brains interpret those sensations and create a meaningful experience of the world. It's like, how does that light hitting your retina actually translate into the image of a beautiful sunset? Our brains are constantly filtering and processing information, creating a subjective reality based on our individual experiences and perspectives. And sometimes our brains can even play tricks on us. Remember those optical illusions? That's a prime example of how our perceptions can be distorted. And speaking of perception, it plays a huge role in another key process: learning. From simple conditioning to complex problem solving, learning is how we acquire new knowledge, skills, and behaviors. Think about the last time you learned something new. Maybe you picked up a new hobby or finally mastered that complicated recipe. What strategies did you use? Were you observing others, practicing repeatedly, or breaking down the task into smaller steps? It's fascinating to reflect on our own learning processes, right? Now, when it comes to learning, there are two main types that psychologists focus on: classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Classical conditioning is all about associating stimuli, like that bell in food in Pavlov's experiment. It's how we learn to respond to certain cues in our environment. Operant conditioning, on the other hand, is about how consequences shape our behavior. Think about getting a reward for a job well done or receiving a consequence for a misstep. Through operant conditioning, we learn to repeat behaviors that lead to positive outcomes and avoid those that lead to negative ones. But learning isn't just about these two types of conditioning. There's also observational learning, which is all about learning by watching others, kind of like social learning on steroids. We're constantly observing and imitating those around us, picking up new behaviors and incorporating them into our own repertoire. Think about how kids learn to speak, or how you might unconsciously adopt mannerisms from your friends. It's fascinating how much we learn simply by observing and interacting with others. So from sensation and perception to learning, we've covered a lot of ground. But there's still so much more to explore in this deep dive into psychology. Next time, we'll be delving into the mysteries of motivation, emotions, and thought processes. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So last time, we started to unravel this intricate tapestry of psychology, right? We explored those foundational ideas that help shape, our understanding of the human mind. We dove into those early schools of thought: structuralism, functionalism, Gestalt psychology. Remember those? We even dipped our toes into those, sometimes murky waters of behaviorism and psychoanalysis. And of course, we touched on those big perspectives that continue to influence modern psychology: biological, learning, psychodynamic, sociocultural, humanistic. Each one offers a unique lens for examining those fascinating quirks that make us, us. But today, we're going to delve deeper into those specific psychological processes that drive our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's like, peeking behind the curtain of our own minds. Okay, so Let's pick up where we left off with learning. We talked about classical and operant conditioning, observational learning. But what, fuels that desire to learn in the first place? What motivates us to strive, achieve, and become the best versions of ourselves? That's where motivation comes in, that internal drive that propels us towards our goals and desires. It's like an invisible force that pushes us forward, sometimes gently, sometimes with a fiery passion. Now, when you think about it, motivation can stem from basic needs like hunger, thirst, or that desperate need for a good night's sleep, but can also be fueled by more complex desires like the need for achievement, belonging, or even the will to meaning. That last one, will to meaning, it sounds pretty deep, right? But it's this idea that humans have an innate drive to find purpose and meaning in life. It's what motivates us to seek out new experiences, connect with others, and make a difference in the world. It's like that time I decided to learn how to knit. I had zero experience, but I was determined to create a masterpiece. A giant multicolored scarf that would rival anything you'd find at a high-end boutique. Let's just say the will to meaning was strong with that one. But motivation isn't always about reaching those lofty goals or achieving those grand ambitions. Sometimes it's about those small, everyday victories, like finally conquering that overflowing laundry basket, or, mustering the willpower to resist that second slice of cake. It's those little wins that keep us going, those moments of, yes, I did it. It's about acknowledging our progress, no matter how small, and recognizing the effort we put in. So we've got motivation fueling our actions. But what about those intense, often overwhelming feelings that color our experiences? What about emotions? Emotions are like those vibrant hues on an artist's palette, adding depth, complexity, and sometimes a bit of chaos to our lives. They're not just fleeting feelings. They involve physiological changes. That racing heart, those sweaty palms, the sudden urge to either fight or flee. It's like that time I had to give a presentation in front of a huge crowd. I'm usually pretty comfortable speaking in public, but this time the nerves hit me like a tidal wave. My heart was pounding, my palms were slick with sweat, and my voice trembled as I tried to introduce myself. Talk about an emotional roller coaster. But here's where it gets really interesting. Our actions can actually influence our emotions. It's not always a one-way street. Have you ever noticed how, forcing yourself to smile, even when you're feeling down, can actually lift your spirits a little? That's the facial feedback hypothesis in action. It's like tricking your brain into feeling happier by changing your facial expression. It's a pretty neat trick, So emotions, they can be intense, they can be fleeting, but they're a vital part of the human experience. They add color, depth, and meaning to our lives. Okay, let's move on to another fascinating mental process. Thinking. It's what sets us apart from other animals, right? That ability to reason, problem solve, and create those elaborate mental maps of the world. Thinking encompasses so many things, from basic decision making, like, what to have for dinner, to complex problem solving, like figuring out how to assemble that IKEA furniture without losing your sanity. And then there's creativity, that spark of inspiration that leads to new ideas, innovative solutions, and those aha moments that make you feel like a genius. It's like that time I came up with this brilliant idea for a new invention, a self-folding laundry basket. Wouldn't that be a game changer? Sadly, my engineering skills haven't quite caught up with my imagination yet. But, thinking isn't always smooth sailing. We can get stuck in mental ruts, fall prey to biases, and, make decisions we later regret. It's like driving down the same mental road day after day, even when it's leading us nowhere. But that's the beauty of it. Our minds are constantly evolving, learning, and adapting. We have the power to challenge our own thinking, seek out new perspectives, and expand our mental horizons. So we've explored motivation, emotions, and thinking. But what about that mysterious quality that shapes so much of who we are, our personality? Now, personality, it's that unique blend of traits, patterns, and quirks that make each of us one of a kind. It's what makes you, well, you, and me, well, me. And one of the most widely used models for understanding personality is the Big Five model. It's like the Hollywood A-list of personality traits: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Each trait represents a spectrum. We all fall somewhere along those continuums. Okay, let's unpack these big 5 traits a bit. First up, we have openness to experience. Are you curious, imaginative, adventurous? Do you crave novelty and embrace new ideas? Then you might be high in openness. Or maybe you prefer routine, familiarity, traditional thinking. That's perfectly fine too. It's all part of that beautiful diversity of human personality. It's like, think about your travel style. Are you the type who meticulously plans every detail, sticking to a strict itinerary? Or are you more spontaneous, embracing those unexpected detours and those serendipitous encounters? It's a reflection of your openness to experience. Now let's move on to conscientiousness. Are you organized, responsible, disciplined? Do you thrive on structure and meticulous planning? Then you might be high in conscientiousness. Or maybe you're more spontaneous, flexible, go with the flow. That's cool too. It's all about finding what works best for you. Think about your work style. Do you prefer to tackle tasks methodically, checking things off your to-do list with precision? Or do you thrive in a more dynamic environment, juggling multiple projects and embracing those last-minute deadlines? It's all about your level of conscientiousness. All right, next up we have extroversion. Are you the life of the party, the social butterfly who thrives on interaction and attention? That's classic extroversion. Or maybe you find large gatherings draining and prefer quiet evenings with a good book. That's introversion, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's all about understanding your own energy levels and what recharges your batteries. Think about how you recharge after a long day. Do you crave social interaction, hitting up a concert or catching up with friends? Or do you prefer to unwind in solitude, taking a long bath or getting lost in a good book? It's a reflection of your level of extroversion. Now let's talk about agreeableness. Are you kind, compassionate, empathetic? Do you prioritize harmony in your relationships and go the extra mile to help others? That's high agreeableness. Or maybe you're more assertive, skeptical, and prioritize your own needs. Again, there's no right or wrong here. It's about recognizing your own interpersonal style. Think about how you handle conflict. Do you strive to find common ground, seeking a peaceful resolution? Or are you more likely to stand your ground and defend your perspective? It's all about your level of agreeableness. And finally, we have neuroticism. This one's all about emotional stability. Are you prone to worry, anxiety, and mood swings? That's high neuroticism. Or are you generally calm, resilient, and able to bounce back from setbacks? That's low neuroticism, and it can be a real asset in navigating life's challenges. Think about how you handle stress. Do you tend to dwell on things, letting worries consume you? Or are you able to take things in stride, finding healthy ways to cope with pressure? It's a reflection of your level of neuroticism. So, those are the big five fundamental dimensions of personality that paint a vivid picture of who we are. And, it's not just about labeling ourselves. It's about understanding those patterns and tendencies that shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. But the big five is just one model, one piece of the personality puzzle. There are so many other theories that dive deeper into the mysteries of the human psyche. Like, remember Freud? Well, psychodynamic theory, it's all about those unconscious processes, those hidden desires and conflicts that influence our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's like an epic drama unfolding beneath the surface of our awareness. And then there's humanistic theory. It takes a more positive and optimistic view of human nature, emphasizing our potential for growth, self-actualization, and finding meaning in life. It's like a journey of self-discovery, a quest to become the best versions of ourselves. And let's not forget social learning theory. It reminds us that we're not just products of our biology or our unconscious minds. We're also shaped by our social interactions, those observations and invitations that mold our behavior and shape our personalities. It's like a dance between nature and nurture, So we've got psychodynamic theory, humanistic theory, social learning theory, each offering a unique lens for understanding the complexities of personality. But how do we actually measure these elusive qualities? I mean, personality, it's not like height or weight. We can't just pull out a measuring tape, right? Well, there are personality tests, those questionnaires, surveys, and sometimes quirky assessments that attempt to capture a glimpse of our inner worlds. Remember that personality test I mentioned earlier, the one that labeled me as a free spirit and a natural leader. Yeah, well, let's just say my leadership skills are still a work in progress. But hey, it was fun to take, right? Now, personality tests can be intriguing, but it's important to approach them with a critical eye. Some are more reliable and valid than others, and no test can fully encompass the complexity of a human being. It's like trying to fit an entire ocean into a swimming pool. You're only going to get a small, distorted glimpse of the vastness beneath the surface. But a personality assessment is not just about taking tests and getting labels. It's an ongoing process of self-discovery, observing our own patterns and understanding those tendencies that shape our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's about embracing those quirks that make us unique, celebrating our strengths, and acknowledging those areas where we might want to grow. It's an adventure, really, a lifelong exploration of the self. And that, my friend, brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive into psychology. We've delved into motivation, emotions, thinking, and personality, those essential elements that make us who we are. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll venture into uncharted territory, exploring the fascinating and sometimes perplexing realm of abnormal psychology. Get ready to unravel the mysteries of the mind. Welcome back, fellow mind explorers. We've been on quite a journey, you know. From those early schools of thought to the complexities of motivation, emotion, thinking, and personality, we've uncovered some fascinating insights into the human psyche. But you know psychology. It isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's a darker side to the human experience. And that's where abnormal psychology comes in. Now, before we dive into the deep end, let's clear up a common misconception. Abnormal psychology, it's not about, labeling people as crazy or weird. It's about understanding those patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that cause significant distress or impairment in a person's life. It's like, have you ever felt overwhelmed by anxiety or sadness to the point where it, interfered with your daily life? Maybe you couldn't focus at work, struggled to connect with loved ones, or just felt like you were going through the motions. Those experiences, while incredibly challenging, can provide valuable insights into the nature of mental health and the importance of seeking support. And that's what abnormal psychology aims to do. Shed light on those conditions that cause significant suffering and explore ways to alleviate that distress and promote well-being. Now, one of the key concepts in abnormal psychology is the idea of a mental disorder. It's not just about feeling sad or anxious sometimes. It's about those feelings and behaviors becoming so intense, frequent, or persistent that they disrupt your ability to, function effectively in your daily life. It's like, imagine having this constant buzzing in your ear that never goes away. At first, you might try to ignore it, but over time, that incessant noise, it would become incredibly distracting and debilitating, making it difficult to concentrate, relax, or even sleep. That's kind of what a mental disorder can feel like, a persistent disruption that throws your life off balance. And just like that buzzing in your ear, mental disorders, they require attention, care, and often professional intervention to find relief and restore balance. Now, there are many different types of mental disorders, each with its own unique set of symptoms and challenges. But one of the most common categories is anxiety disorders. Think about those times when you felt anxious or worried. Maybe you had a big presentation at work, a first date, or a challenging conversation with a loved one. Those feelings of nervousness and apprehension are perfectly normal, even adaptive in some situations. But when anxiety becomes excessive, persistent, and interferes with your daily life, that's when it crosses the line into an anxiety disorder. It's like, imagine feeling anxious all the time, even when there's no clear threat or danger. Your heart might race, your palms might sweat, and you might feel a sense of impending doom even in ordinary situations. That's the reality for people with anxiety disorders, and it can be incredibly debilitating. Some common anxiety disorders include generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, social anxiety disorder, and specific phobias. Now, another widespread category is mood disorders, which involves significant disturbances in a person's mood and emotional state. And we all experience ups and downs in our moods. It's part of being human. But mood disorders, they take those fluctuations to a whole other level. Think about depression, for example. It's not just about feeling sad or blue for a day or two. It's about experiencing persistent feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, and loss of interest in things that used to bring you joy. It's like this gray cloud that follows you everywhere, casting a shadow over even the brightest moments. And it can affect your energy levels, sleep patterns, appetite, and even your physical health. Now, on the other end of the mood spectrum, we have bipolar disorder, which involves extreme shifts in mood between periods of depression and mania. Mania is like the flip side of depression. It's characterized by elevated mood, inflated self-esteem, racing thoughts, decreased need for sleep, and impulsive behavior. It's like your energy levels are on overdrive, but it's not always a pleasant experience. Those manic episodes can be incredibly disruptive, leading to risky decisions, strained relationships, and even financial problems. So, anxiety disorders and mood disorders, they are two of the most prevalent categories in abnormal psychology. But there are many other conditions that fall under this umbrella, each with its own unique challenges and complexities. There are psychotic disorders like schizophrenia, which involve disturbances in thought processes, perceptions, and behavior. People with schizophrenia might experience hallucinations, seeing or hearing things that aren't there, or delusions, holding false beliefs that are not based in reality. It's like their mind is playing tricks on them, making it difficult to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And it can be incredibly frightening and isolating for both the individual and their loved ones. Then there are personality disorders, which involve inflexible and unhealthy personality traits that cause significant problems in relationships, work, and other areas of life. Think about someone who's extremely narcissistic, antisocial, or borderline. These personality traits can be incredibly challenging to deal with and can lead to a lot of conflict and turmoil in their relationships. And let's not forget about those organic mental disorders, which are caused by a physical condition that affects the brain. This includes things like Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and traumatic brain injuries. These conditions can cause significant changes in a person's thinking, memory, behavior, and overall functioning. And they often require specialized care and support to manage the symptoms and maintain, quality of life. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here exploring this diverse landscape of abnormal psychology. But one thing's for sure, mental health is just as important as physical health. And just like we go to the doctor for checkups and treatment for physical ailments, we should prioritize our mental well-being and seek support when we need it. There's no shame in struggling with a mental health condition, and there are effective treatments available, including therapy, medication, and lifestyle changes. And, it's not just about treating those diagnosed conditions. It's also about promoting mental well-being in general. It's about, taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, and mentally so we can thrive in all areas of our lives. So as we wrap up this deep dive into psychology, I encourage you to reflect on your own mental health journey. What are some things you're doing to nurture your well-being? What are some areas where you might want to seek support or make positive changes? Remember, you're not alone in this journey. There are resources available, people who care, and a whole world of knowledge and support out there waiting to be explored. So keep those minds curious, those hearts open, and those spirits soaring. Until next time, happy diving.